Hello, guys, and welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. Now, we promised a big week of announcements, and the next one has came in. Tyson Fury will be fighting Derek Chisora in their trilogy bout, December the 3rd at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Now, let's be honest, none of us are shocked by this news. I think it's been the worst kept secret. A few people doubted it after Derek Chisora said at the Shields Marshall fight this past weekend that he wouldn't be fighting him. It was rumours, but I think we all knew. Derek likes to wind the media up, and we all knew this fight would be going ahead after the seriously negative feedback on the Manuel Char fight. And for me on this fight, that's probably the best thing about it. It's better than Manuel Char. It's better than what we possibly could have ended up with. I'm thinking back to Tom Schwartz, Sefer Seferi, and fights like that Tyson Fury's had. Tyson Fury's undoubtedly the number one heavyweight on the planet at the moment, but the resume does need some work, I think it's fair to say, really. It's Klitschko, Wilder, and now Dylan White. This hopefully acts as a tune-up fight for the undisputed fight with Alexander Usyk in the early part of 2023. Let's just look at this, because a lot of people will undoubtedly be saying Derek Chisora's 38, over the hill, he shouldn't be getting this fight, but he's ranked 14 with the WBC, which is disappointing. But he is coming off the back of 3 losses. Obviously, we know Usyk, and then back-to-back losses to Joseph Parker. And then possibly, when you actually look at his wins, a career best win over Kubrat Pulev, although no doubt critics will also say Pulev over the hill. But still, he's coming off a good win against a definite top 15 heavyweight. So he's in form. And let's be fair, this was obviously touted for Cardiff. It's not happening there. It's happening at Spurs ground. Now, I think personally that's for 2 reasons. The World Cup's going on, so Spurs Stadium is obviously free. The World Cup's in Qatar. And then secondly, Cardiff can do, 80,000? Spurs is like 60,000. This fight doesn't sell Cardiff out. I'm going to go on record as saying that I wouldn't believe it would. I understand Frank Warren likes to push the narrative that Tyson Fury is the biggest draw in heavyweight boxing, or boxing, full stop. But everybody needs a dance partner. Let's be totally honest. Anthony Joshua proved that, didn't he? When he fought Klitschko at Wembley, it was a 90,000. When he fought Alexander Povetkin at Wembley, which was a good fight, but not quite the same name value, it didn't draw those same numbers. So that, for me, is why it's been moved to Spurs. And let's be honest, Chisora's got a fan base. I'm one of them. He'll sell tickets in London. So that's that fight. They've also announced the chief support, which this is... Anyone who watches this channel regularly will know I'm not the biggest Daniel Dubois fan. Through no fault of his own necessarily, I just think he's not been managed the best, and he's just untested at this point in his career. He's 25 years old now. He's 18-1. We all know about his stoppages. He got 17 of them, and he was stopped in his loss to Joe Joyce, or Joe Joyce's jab, as I like to say every time I get the opportunity. But he's been a pro now for 5 years. As I said, 25 years old. I am fully supportive of promoters and managers not rushing a fighter through, but comparing to Anthony Joshua, who was world champion after 3 years in the game, now that was fast, and there was an element of good fortune, I appreciate, with Charles Martin at the time. However, he was moved at a faster rate. He was moved at a rate of knots. Now, COVID won't have helped that. I understand BT and Frank Warren would probably use that excuse. But he beat Trevor Bryan back in June for the WBA regular title. And apart from Lee Wood, who is just being robbed by the WBA, I'm not a fan of this WBA situation. Not a fan in any way, shape or form. If Frank Warren's going to sit here and tell us as fight fans that Daniel Dubois is a legitimate world champion, then he needs to fight legitimate contenders. And that brings me nicely onto his opponent, Kevin Lerena. Now, for those of you who have no idea who he is, he's currently ranked 13 with the WBA. He's 28-1, 30 years of age. He's not been stopped in his sole loss, but he's only got 14 stoppages. Now, on paper, you think, oh, okay, yeah, that's not bad. He's experienced, not been stopped. But this is where it gets a little bit, it's not great for me, personally. He's a former IBO Cruiserweight World Champion. Well, again, similar to the WBA regular situation, people have their views on the IBO situation. It's a small piece of the world title puzzle, but it's a piece nonetheless. So fair play. At Cruiserweight, he's achieved a bit. but he's a blown up cruiserweight, isn't he? And, you know, I know people in comments may say, oh, Alexander Usyk. Usyk's a generational talent. Kevin Lerena certainly doesn't look like he is so far in his career. They've got a shared opponent. They've both beaten Bogdan Dinu in not too far back, both quite recent. And Lerena has also beaten Marius Wack, who is a name, but he's also over the hill and taken a fair few losses in the last few years. But I just don't get it. Dubois needs a test. Why didn't he fight Michael Hunter? Michael Hunter was going to fight Hughie Fury to become Dubois' mandatory. So that fight should have been made for me upon Fury's second pullout, because they're talking about Dubois being in the queue for a full legitimate world title shot on the WBA front. Well, he's going to have to deal with his mandatory, because the original talk from the WBA was that Hughie Fury would fight Michael Hunter. The winner faces Daniel Dubois. The winner then goes on to face Usyk or whoever the super champion, as the WBA called them, maybe at that point. So why didn't you just do it? I understand that leaves Hughie Fury out in the cold a little bit, and people may say they're not a fan of that. But Hughie Fury has pulled out twice. Now, not through his, unless you're a skeptic like I am, he pulled out of a lot of fights in his career. He has pulled out. So why should Michael Hunter's career, he's lost half of this year waiting for Hughie Fury to fight, and it's not happened. So he shouldn't be punished. Sky and Boxer have got to deliver for him. Go and make the Dubois fight. And it should be easy to make. They've, you know, with Frank Warren, they made the Joseph Parker-Joe Joyce fight. So maybe this could have been Sky's turn. Now Daniel Dubois goes over and fights Michael Hunter. There's a million and one permutations, but that would have been a legitimate test. I'm so underwhelmed with Kevin Lerena. And let's be fair, two of Frank Warren's three big heavyweights, and they're the names in Britain, they're fighting the 14th ranked contender in Fury Chisora and the 13th ranked contender in Kevin Lerena. And guys, anyone who's watched this knows I'm not the biggest fan of Frank Warren. And there you go. Need I say any more? Hey, let us know in the comments what you guys think about these fights, and join us on the next one.